up on Montagne du Rey. It's the kind of northernmost edge of the Pyrenees. And we came out here as a strategic move this morning to try and find some flying that we could at least be away from the battle between the Spanish southerly wind and the French northerly wind. So we've come to a site which, by all the forecasts, was supposed to be clearing up at about this time. And so you can see the problem with the race in this sort of stuff. You can make the decision to go up to a launch site on the French side. You can invest quite a lot of time and energy to get up there, and then you can be stuck with this. And this is really going to slow you down for a race. And the big problem with that is you've invested so much energy and time to get up here that you kind of want to make it pay off. You don't want to go. So you end up being pinned on a potentially good launch site because it's going to be heartbreaking to walk down and then other guys come along and fly over you. So every good launch site can actually be quite a trap in a hike and fly race. And I think this is, you're going to especially see this on the French side, being that it's usually like this. I'll just give you a little bit more. Maybe it'll clear up and you'll see what's going on. And let me just get the messages up there. Hey, Jack Carver, let me know if you're getting the sound all right. You guys can hear me. I can never tell with the live stream. So every now and again, the cloud does break and we can see something. While we've got an opportunity, let me show you what it looks like towards Spain. So this, that is what we're looking at towards Spain, and over towards that way is turnpoint 2, and you can see this sort of thunderstorm cloud above. So the top is all looking a bit sort of dangerous to fly, you know, like it's got embedded cumulonimbus somewhere up there. Whereas where we are, we're in the lower layer, so it's a lot better. But because we're in the lower layer, we're sitting in this cool air, which is underneath the Spanish air. So there's always this battle going on in the Pyrenees. And every day that convergence line shifts. And sometimes the French air is winning, sometimes the Spanish air is winning. And during the race, we're going to be kind of crossing that convergence line. And some of the pilots are going to be on the wrong side of the line trying to get a turn point. Some of the pilots are going to be trying to cross through that line super hard. And some of the pilots are going to be in the Spanish side, up there somewhere, you know, going along. And you can be standing here and you can look up and watch them going past you at 100 kilometers an hour. So it's gonna make the race really tactically very interesting, because this year the course is much more divided between France and Spain. And we've got that big X, remember, in the middle of the course line. We fly from the west coast, we go about halfway along the Pyrenees, then we have to go across to Arbas, back to Pic de Midi de Bigorre, and then over to Caronco, I think it is. So past Luchon. So we're going to do that cross, which means everybody's going to have this crossing this convergence line problem and getting stuck in on very, very stable air mass. This is good, you know, sort of tourist flying. If you've got the time, there are lots of really nice flying sites on this side because it's lush and it's green and it's, you know, it's grassy, it's lovely, there's beautiful trees around. And when the view comes back, I will show it to you. We're in the right at the top of the cloud layer, and that's why we're getting the view every now and again. But there's no way to fly from here, because if you had to fly down, you can't see where your landing is. And one thing I will say about this area is super tricky with lots of cables. Wherever we've driven around, you see lots of cables and lots of sort of stranded telephone lines and electricity lines all kind of bunched up onto one line, and then they go across a field. So there's lots of those little dangerous lines that you want to be very sure. You can't be going out to go and look for landing in limited visibility. You have to be able to see what you're doing because of all the cables and the tricky landing setups. And then also you've got valley winds that could be happening, particularly as we're getting closer in to the main divide. Those valley winds get really, really strong because the ravines are really narrow going through the Pyrenees. And we've got 1, 2, 3 times that we have to go through that main divide. So each one of those crossings is going to be a big shake-up in the results, because some pilots are going to get there at a time where it's going to be just too risky, and you're going to think, ooh, you know, there's this more and more wind as you're going further and further in. And at some point, you're going to have to pull the plug and land kind of on the slope so that you're not down in the valley wind really strong, and then take the pain of walking down and walking through to walk over. So yeah, it's not easy. This race is going to be really tough. And particularly if we're in this sort of stuff. Now, the first part of the race might be a little plagued with this, being that we start at Hodda on the coast, then we go up to Laroon. That should be clear. That's only 900 meters high, and it's likely to be probably the sea breeze. We'll probably clear that away and make it pretty stable. But then we've got the line from Laroon basically to here. I'm about, I don't know, about 10 kilometers maybe tops from the turnpoint. And the turnpoint is further south than me, where I'm at the sort of the mouth of that valley, because I didn't want to be where the two air masses were fighting each other today. I don't like that idea with very unstable air that's hitting that convergence line. There's likely to be some thunderstorm activity. So we'll see what happens in the race. Hopefully we get slightly less of this. Now this cloud goes all the way down to where we started walking this morning. It was down in the valley, and it goes all the way out. From what I could see when there was a break, it goes out to like almost to Toulouse. It's like the French plains have got this carpet of mist. It's a layer of stability. It keeps it all nice and moist, but man, it's going to be super stable. Even if it clears, it's got warm air on top of it, so it doesn't really going to it's not going to help you at all. It's going to slow athletes down as soon as they get onto this French side. This is the slow, tricky, you know, getting from one ridge to the next is also tricky because of all the moisture, completely covered in trees. So it'll be fun watching when you see the live tracking going so slowly on the French side. You know what's happening. The guys are walking up and down these things and making the wrong decision when the cloud's going to clear, like I've just done. Even with the good forecasting models, I was using Meteo Parapent, which is usually pretty good in the Pyrenees. And yeah, they just didn't get the clearing of the cloud right. This bottom layer is completely embedded, and it looks like we're going to have to walk down. So a lot of effort, but yeah, in the race, we're not going to be able to have this kind of leisurely pace. So let me try and spin through some of the comments and see if I can get any of the comments from you guys. It's a little bit hard because sometimes it doesn't show me where they are, but I can go back here. Monkey Man's asking, couldn't you fly above the fog? I could. I mean, the air mass is actually better above the fog, but where do you land? If you can't really rely on getting lift all the time, at some point you're going to fly down into this fog. And that is a nightmare, because then you can fly into things that you can't see. Even with a map of the terrain, you could fly out into the valley, you're still going to fly into some big strands of electricity cables or something. So yeah, it's not an option. You have to be able to see landing to be able to fly. So I'd love to do that, but can't really do it now. The statue in the background, yeah, the statue in the background is Courtney waiting for the flying conditions to turn on. Yeah, I promised him flying. Ooh, I think I'm going to have to make supper tonight. Cool, Marcus Hill. Thanks for the comments, and thanks everybody for joining the live streams. Hi, Alan. Alan's asking how hot is it in the mountains. Well, you can see I've got a fleece top on. I think it's probably 18 degrees up here, maybe 20. This is more to just stop me sunburning as well. To when the sun breaks out, it jumps. The temperature jumps rapidly. But while we're in the fog, it's very pleasant. But it's been a lovely hike to get up here. You know, really cool in the forest, and everything's dripping and wet. As soon as you go out that side and you get into the Spanish air, the temperature goes up 10 degrees. You're looking at 30 degrees, and on the other side of the divide, on the Castellón de Sos on that side, I expect it's probably 30 degrees, at ground level, particularly as you go out into the plains, probably 35. So there's a big temperature difference between one side and the other. Mr. Gumago is asking about, what about your equipment, wing pod, rucksack? It's down there lying in the rocks, being as I don't need it. So yeah, I've got all my kit with me on these training days as well. I'm just training with all of my stuff that I'm used to flying with. So I've got the option, and it's about 10 kilograms, I think. All of my equipment, Omega X-Alps, advanced weightless harness, and the new backpack, lightweight reserve, and 2 liters of water I'm always carrying in the Pyrenees. And then I've got a bladder bag that I can fill up with more water if I come across a water source, and I can fly with it. I've always got that. Cool. Monkey Man, I'm going to try and see if I can find your questions, dude. It's quite difficult with the way the live stream goes, and the questions just go flying past while I'm trying to talk. Yeah, you're asking about having a lower body weight for paragliding. Not really. The best is you want to be big and heavy, being that you get the most performance and the mellowest kind of glider behavior by being a really big, really strong person. I think proportionally, the amount of gear that you have to carry, the big pilots tend to be quite highly loaded on the gliders. It means the gliders are quite small relative to them. The amount of equipment you have to carry relative to your body mass. So I think it gets easier as you're bigger, but obviously not bigger out front. You want it in your muscles. You want to be like big and heavy. And it's really obvious when you see the birds that fly in this area. The ones that make it look like they're totally at home are the Egyptian vultures, and the big vulture type, big birds of prey with a lot of body mass. And they just cruise around. They've got the speed and the glide, and they can just make it look like it's their home. Whereas little paragliders flying around, and the lighter you go, the less performance you have on a paraglider, and the more you get hit around by the gusts and pushed around. So it's a kind of it works. It doesn't help with hike and fly racing. All of the athletes tend to be quite lean because you obviously don't want to carry any extra body weight. So we're all flying fairly small gliders, fairly light loading. We're all quite light, relatively speaking. And it's actually the wrong end of the paragliding performance curve. We should be very heavy, and that's where the performance comes. And you'll see competition pilots tend to have a big harness, extra ballast, big wing, and then you've got beautiful gliding performance. But then you can't walk up the mountain so quickly. So it's a balance. You know, you have to decide what you're going to do, what you're going to optimize for. And for hike and fly racing, a lot of it is relaunching. You know, you use the cross-country conditions, but then there's a piece in the beginning of the day and the end of the day where you are landing high, walking up, relaunching, flying again, crossing a valley, packing up, running a bit on the road, getting to a pass, relaunching. So the ability to link things on the ground makes a big difference in the hike and fly racing. It's those extra little pieces that you can then link to get to the next cross-country. And if you're too heavy and too slow on the ground, you don't make those links, and you miss the big 100K blocks that you can fly. So there's a lot that goes into it, and it integrates a lot of disciplines to make a hike and fly racing pilot good. You've got to be good at kind of orienteering, navigation, mountain marathon management, like your body, looking after your body, not pushing too hard and then running out of energy, being able to maintain your energy. Your crew has to be very good at being able to find you where you fly and bringing you the right supplies, and you're being able to forecast where the weather's going to be working and where it isn't. Very important. So everybody's learning at this game, but some pilots will have the edge for sure about where to go fly. So I hope you enjoyed that little session on the French side. Now you know what it looks like. It's all white. And tomorrow, hopefully, we'll be down on the Spanish side. I'm going to do a little bit of a recce there and show you the line we have to fly from Accous to get to Peña Montanesa. I'll try and be in that, the sort of pre-Pyrenees on the Spanish side, and you'll see the contrast. So bring your sunglasses for tomorrow's session. Thanks for watching, and stick around. I'll do live streams whenever I have a gap in the day like this, and keep you updated and help you understand what's happening at the X-PYR, so you can enjoy watching the live tracking and take part in the event. So thanks again. I'll see you guys soon. Thanks for hanging out with me. I appreciate it, and I will catch you tomorrow probably. Cheers.